is a gas that's colorless, tasteless, odorless, and deadly. To protect yourself and your loved ones, you should have a carbon monoxide alarm on every level of your home and within 10 feet of each sleeping area. Remember to test the carbon monoxide alarms monthly and replace the battery yearly. Replace your alarm before you hear the end-of-life alert. If the alarm makes a continuous loud noise, get everyone outside and call 911. Carbon monoxide alarms protect the ones you love. Make sure they are working today. See you next time.
Hola, soy Claire Pillsbury y estoy con el programa Food to Go to Waste con la ciudad de San Pablo. Estamos aquí en el Burrito Mercado para aprender estrategias creativas para cocinar con sobras de comida. ¿Vamos a ver?
Hola, soy Melissa y estamos aquí en el Burrito Mercado y hoy vamos a hablar de cómo utilizar ingredientes que a veces sobran en casa, específicamente de verdura. En este caso vamos a estar hablando de pico de gallo, pero primero quería decirles que aparte del pico de gallo tradicional que uno conoce en casa, que es el jitomate rojo, cebolla blanco, cilantro, un poco de limón y jalapeño serrano, también uno puede utilizar otros ingredientes frescos que tiene en su casa. A veces se puede usar la cebolla morada, puede poner aguacate, el pepino, calabacita, o si lo quiere más picoso, puede hacer el con chile manzano o chile habanero. Entonces, esa es otra variedad que uno puede hacer con otros ingredientes que tiene en casa antes de que se echen a perder, hacer una rica salsa de pico de gallo. En este caso voy a hablarles de dos recetas con el pico de gallo tradicional. Y así si lo compra del Burrito Mercado, como lo tenemos aquí, lo vendemos por la libra, o si lo hace en casa. Pero ya cuando se empiece como que a marchitar el jitomate en especial, ya es importante para no desperdiciarlo, poder utilizarlo en casa. Entonces en este caso hicimos dos tipos de salsas. Una es una salsa molida, cocida. Entonces primero uno pone todos los ingredientes así como está, lo mete a la licuadora, lo pone a moler hasta tal consistencia y luego lo pone a calentar en la sartén. Cuando termina de guisar la salsa así como eso, yo en este caso usé barbacoa, que también está disponible en el deli del burrito, o puede usar carne asadas o camarón o otro tipo de carnes en casa. Y aquí yo ya preparé un plato con arrocito rico, pone su barbacoa o cualquier otro guisado. Y luego agarra la salsa molida aquí, rica, y la pone encima de su barbacoa. Así rico. O incluso puede desde antes ponerlo todo junto, cocinarlo todo junto en la sartén. También se puede hacer eso. La otra receta muy fácil de hacer es el pico de gallo calientito, así nomás como guisado. Para esto es importante primero sacudir o estrenar todos los jugos, porque el pico de gallo hay que echarle limón. Entonces eso puede amargar la salsa que se va a hacer ahí. Entonces nomás agarré todo el pico de gallo, lo guisé así en un sartén con aceite, lo dejé guisar un ratito hasta que agarre tal consistencia. Sí le puse poquito, mire cómo tiene su aceitito. Y le puse poquito agua y sal, pimienta, como usted guste sazonarlo. Y luego en este caso lo voy a poner encima de mis huevos estrellados para hacer tipo huevo ranchero. O igual lo puede poner encima de su carne guisado. Está muy rico para muchos usos. Le va a durar varios días guardado en el refrigerador. Entonces son algunas maneras que puede usar ingredientes que sobran en casa para hacer su propio estilo de pico de gallo, o con el pico de gallo tradicional, dos diferentes recetas. El salsa para guisado o la salsa ranchera, así como para cocinar con sus guisados o con totopos en casa. Espero les haya disfrutado. Gracias por ver este video.
This is Bernie Bear coming to you today from the Firehouse Kitchen. Did you know that cooking is the leading cause of fires? To prevent cooking fires, remember these 3 rules. Keep anything that can burn 3 feet away from the stove. Do not leave the kitchen when you are cooking. Stay and look when you cook. If you have a fire on your stove, cover the fire with the lid or a baking sheet. Then turn the stove off and call 911. Remember that cooking is the leading cause of fires, so do your part to prevent fires in the kitchen. See you next time.
Emerald ash borer, or EAB for short, is an invasive pest that has created an environmental crisis in St. Paul for the past 2 decades. Since EAB was first discovered in St. Paul in 2009, our professional forestry staff have been executing a management plan that focuses on the removal and replacement of public ash trees. Our staff know as well as anyone the impact that losing trees has on individuals and neighborhoods across the city. But we have reached a critical phase in the infestation. Dead and declining infested ash trees quickly dry out and become brittle, are prone to failures such as dropping limbs, and pose an increasing public safety risk. By removing these trees from the landscape, we can then work to restore the urban forest by planting a more diverse combination of species where they once stood. The City of St. Paul has chosen not to embark on a long-term treatment program for public ash trees, but individual property owners can find more information on potential treatment options for individual trees on our website. It is important to understand, however, that the vast majority of the ash trees in St. Paul are not considered viable for treatment. For more information about EAB and options property owners have to address trees on their property, please visit stpaul.gov/EAB.
I'm Sarah with the City of St. Paul's Food Too Good to Waste program. We're at Mount Olivet Church today visiting with Andrea to learn about the food waste prevention practices they put into place, as well as their food donation program.
One of the things that motivated us to start recycling was just the amount that we were throwing in the garbage. We didn't want to make such a large footprint on the earth, so we thought that we could do our part.
And then 9 in environmental health and solid and hazardous waste management programs, starting as an environmental specialist before being promoted to a supervisor. Then you came to Ramsey County in 1989 as a division manager for the solid waste division. Following the merger of the City of St. Paul and Ramsey County's public health departments, you were appointed as our environmental health director, a position you've held until March of 2021. You continue to work closely with Washington County involving resource recovery issues, and most recently served on the executive co-leadership team for the Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy Board, which many of us serve on. You help lead the 2 counties' efforts to purchase the previously privately owned Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy Center, a waste processing facility in Newport, Minnesota. Through Ramsey Washington Recycling and Energy, you have been engaged in research of new technologies such as gasification, anaerobic digestion, and chemical recycling and waste management system changes for our 2 counties, and have aided statewide system changes. You also assisted both counties in achieving waste management plan goals and state objectives through the recycling and energy direction for joint activities between the counties, leading and creating innovative programming. In 2021, you were conferred a Solid Waste Association of North America, or SWANA, Life Member Award for your superior commitment and service to your employer, long-term involvement in, and significant contributions to the field of solid waste management. And we couldn't be more proud in Ramsey County of that award for you. You spent the last year of your career leading the division during the pandemic. You served as the Deputy Incident Commander for the COVID-19 Incident Command System. We're so grateful that you agreed to stick around for another year after retiring in March of 2021 and have spent the past year on a phased retirement option. Hopefully working less than 40 hours a week, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. In the summer of 2021, you and your wife bred your dog and had a litter of puppies, and due to unforeseen circumstances have been instrumentally involved and the feeding of all those little ones. So good job. At the end of this month, Zach, you will officially retire, giving you the opportunity to spend more time hunting, fishing, and traveling with your wife and visiting your two daughters. But I just want to say again, on a personal note, Zach, you've been so helpful to me. I know to all of us on the board with all of your good wisdom, your good counsel, just setting us on a path that we're all so proud of, and really, really saving, our environment for all futures to come. So thank you so very much, Zach. And I don't know at what point, Madam Chair, we'll let other commissioners, but I know that that Sarah Holly, Public Health Director, also has some comments. But thanks again, Zach. Wish you all the best in the world and hope you're not a stranger.
Congratulations, Zach. I'll turn it over to Sarah Holly now.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire. We have a number of people, Mr. Hanson, that are here to honor you today and recognize you. And so I'll just pass the virtual mic over as I wrap up. But I first want to say, Zach, on behalf of St. Paul Ramsey County Public Health, I want to extend our thank you to you for your 30+ years of public health service and the work that you've done in environmental health and with the Ramsey and Washington Recycling and Energy Board. Your legacy and contributions speak volumes to what public health service is and what it means to our county and our state. I have appreciated getting to work with you when I started at Ramsey County back in 2019 as a race and health equity administrator. You and your team were working tirelessly to advance racial equity through environmental health and also through the recruitment and hiring of staff from racially and ethnically diverse communities. I witnessed the start of the Environmental Health Fellowship. It's just one of many examples of your work in public health and environmental health. Your goal of lifting up the next generation of public health leaders just speaks volumes to your contributions in public health. I've enjoyed getting to know you. I appreciate you, and congratulations and well wishes on your retirement. I'll turn it over now to Deputy County Manager Hadeen.
Thank you, Director Holly. And Zach, this is both awkward and weird because you're not supposed to leave, right? You're supposed to stay here and work with us forever. Well, you've already heard some of these words, but solid waste, anaerobic digestion, organic waste, gasification. No, these are not words to describe someone after they've had a really terrible meal. These are words to describe things that Zach has normalized over the years here at Ramsey County in his role as Environmental Health Director. When I joined Ramsey County back in 2001, Zach Hanson was one of the first leaders I met. My takeaway from you at the time, Zach, was that Ramsey County was a place you could work where family comes first, integrity is a must, which we've already heard, public health is grounded in science, and innovation is key. You've modeled all of these things over the years, working to build one of the strongest environmental health divisions and public health departments in the state of Minnesota. You've mentored countless practitioners and colleagues across the region and state, and you've set up an infrastructure that will continue to invest in the Ramsey County community for years to come. Thank you for sharing your passion for public health and environmental health. And thank you for being the teacher we've all needed to ensure we continue to protect the health of all people in Ramsey County. I've enjoyed the time that we've spent working together over the years. I wish you and Nancy and the girls and the dogs and everyone else who enters your life health and wellness as you navigate the amazing world of retirement. Congratulations, Zach. And I'm not sure who I turn it over to.
Thank you, Deputy.
Commissioner Miron? I think Commissioner Miron is next on my.
Madam Commissioner McGuire, we have not seen Commissioner Miron yet. We are watching to see if he makes it here.
Madam Chair, I am here. I'm showing up as Jennifer Hockney on our screen.
Commissioner Miron, all the way from Washington County, and we'll take you in whatever form you show up.
You know, Zach, you're a pretty important guy because I stepped away from the Washington County Board meeting here to congratulate you on your retirement. And And I can share with you, my board chair was frustrated that I hadn't shared this opportunity with the entire board. They would have enjoyed just taking a recess from the meeting for a few minutes and have met with the Ramsey County Board and congratulated you on really just such a fabulous career. Zach, Commissioner McGuire went through so many of my talking points, and I'm not going to repeat them. Just know that Washington County feels equally proud of you and the work you've done. You know, you started here in Washington County and certainly set a culture within public health and environment that has positioned us very well in 2022. And that leadership, you know, back in the early years has placed us in a good position. The one thing I didn't hear Commissioner McGuire mention, and you certainly were part of helping the Recycling and Energy secure the state bonding for improvements to the Recycling and Energy Center, you know, which is going to really be critical to the work we do in the future in recovering recyclables and organics from the waste stream. And that's a big deal. But I can tell you that, you know, both counties worked collaboratively in establishing the policies, but it was really the work that you and the rest of your staff were doing in providing us the background to help make those policy decisions that were so critical. And, you know, I'm really pleased to see and say that after years of investigation, of review, of, you know, consideration of the purchasing of the Newport facility and all of that, that we remain on track. And we remain on track because the research and the background information that you and your staff had provided to us to make good policy decisions was well-based and good sound research and work effort. And you left a legacy here in both counties that is going to live on for a long, long time and have positive environmental results for many, many years to come. Just so much appreciate the opportunity to work for you. And I would say the one thing I'm going to miss, Zach, is visiting with you and the conversations about your wife and her veterinary practice. As not only a county commissioner, but a dairy farmer, I always enjoyed those conversations and hearing from your perspective some of the work your wife was doing as a veterinarian. So congratulations, Zach. I look forward to seeing you in you know, in the future as you enjoy your retirement.
Thank you, Commissioner Miron. We really appreciate it. We also now have Dave Banky from the MPCA here, Zach. Dave. Maybe Dave's not with us yet. Dave Banky with us? All right. Then we have Tom Hogan from the Minnesota Department of Health. Tom.
Good morning, all, and especially to you, Zach. Congratulations on your retirement and, as described, an incredible career serving the public. For those I don't know, I'm Tom Hogan. I'm the Environmental Health Director at the Minnesota Department of Health, and share a lot of commonalities with Zach, including leading COVID activities over the last year or so. So glad to hear I'm in good company. You know, Zach, I just want to recognize that through your leadership, you and your team have been key partners in environmental public health issues through the years. And, you know, I can't even begin to describe all of them with the Minnesota Department of Health. But I think we recognize that's played out in a lot of different ways, not only in solid waste. And as I was reminded, your role in responding to citizen complaints about the Maplewood compost site, just to name a few things. and more recently, helping to reduce lead exposure associated with water gremlins. Just speaks to the breadth of activities that you've been involved in through the years. And, through your efforts, you have helped create a trusting relationship that will continue to advance public health, and especially environmental public health, the system of that, not only in the county, but really across the state, as we look at how we do public health and environmental public health across the state. So on behalf of MDH, I've been told by numerous people, we will miss you greatly. We thank you for all that you've done, and certainly enjoy those next steps in life, and keep up the great hairstyle while you're at it too. Thanks, Zach.
Thank you so much, Tom, and it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to turn it over to the county manager now, County Manager O'Connor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Zach, I'm not going to add to all the accolades, lest it all go to your head today, but it's all true and it's all been huge. And you helped me understand from day one how environmental health ties to public health and how to not think about it through organizations that exist a lot of other places. And I owe that to you. I think the thing, though, that I would most say that I owe to you is you're one of the first county people I ever met in county government. You're the one, I think you are the first Ramsey County person I ever met in Ramsey County government when I was working with the Association of Minnesota Counties. And it gave me an insight into a place that has clearly become a part of my life and my home as well. And one of the neat things behind the scenes to that, Deputy County Manager Hadeen already told her story, but it's similar in some ways for myself as well. But as I have moved through different roles in this organization, you continue to have coffee with me at the Caribou right by 694, and we would meet and we would talk. And at times you would criticize things quietly, but regardless of whether you agreed with everything or not, you always were supportive and offering the best perspective you could into our work. And I know at the end of the day for you, the work was more important than all of the churn that can sometimes exist around the work. That's one of your greatest traits. And yet you just maintained a level head and a support structure for others as we move through this organization. I speak for many, and my career is in part a success due to you. And I thank you for the opportunities I've had. And I hope we all continue to live up to the legacy you've helped to leave here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. Now I'm going to turn to commissioners, and I'll start with Commissioner Reinhardt, who I know has been waiting desperately for this moment.
Yes, thank you so much. Zach, everything that has been said obviously is so true, and the legacy that you leave is pretty amazing. I think on this board anyway, I probably have known you the longest. I remember meeting with you when you were in Washington County, and I worked as a solid waste abatement administrator in Anoka County, and trying to piece together really at that time a system that we now have. And one of the reasons we have that is because of you and your leadership in this. Who would have thought in the mid 80s that we'd both be sitting in these different positions right now? I know I didn't, so for myself anyhow. But when I became a commissioner, the work that we were doing in the environmental field, because that's obviously what my background is in as well, really just has been amazing to me how far we've come. The idea of purchasing the facility and expanding really what we are doing and raising the awareness of people. You and I both know what a struggle that has been, to try to get people to understand that they can make a difference. And we're going to do everything in our power to make sure that it's as easy as possible. Having the facility, having the new processing capabilities there, wow. But it goes way beyond that. Someone mentioned water gremlin. It's in my backyard. And so it's something that is so critical, and it's about the people. I mean, everything that we do for the environment is really about the people, and respecting the land, the air, the water, and how we can do the very best for future generations, for our generation as well. You know, I know that everyone has had great experiences and working side by side with you, and all the way back from the mid 80s to now, I have really enjoyed being able to work alongside you in many different ways, and your leadership, your legacy will live on for a long time. You will be missed, but I think we all know where to find you too. So as a friend, I wish you well.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. We're wrapping up. We're going to turn it over to Zach for final comments. You get the last word here, Zach, but know that, as you can tell, we all appreciate you so much. And I think you are the finest example of don't judge a book by its cover. Because first thought, you might think Zach is a really serious guy and he's very strict, but you have many layers and many chapters that are all fun to read and to get to know. And I know there'll be more adventures and chapters as we move forward, and we can't wait to hear back from you and to stay in touch. So with that, Zach, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. And my goodness, this is not what I expected. This is incredible. So thank you all, and I greatly appreciate it. When I hired Cheryl Armstrong, who is a planner in the Public Health Department, to work on emergency preparedness and environmental health, during her interview, I asked her, what is environmental health? And she said, if you've seen one environmental health department, you've seen one. And that is so true. And so in this time in Washington County, and now for over 30 years in Ramsey County, have worked to meet the needs of the public and of communities with regard to where the environment intersects their life. And I can't do that without strong support of the elected officials. And I've been fortunate since I worked in Washington County to have county boards that had vision, who led, who took chances and took risks for the good of the public. And I've had the benefit of county managers, public health directors that have allowed me to innovate. And so that I could pass that risk taking onto staff, so that we could create things like the Healthy Homes program. So we could create risk-based funding systems in hazardous waste regulation, so that we could move forward in a lot of the solid waste activities. But it's that freedom to innovate, to take risks, to get messy that kept me here for 32 years. It allowed me to work with all of you. Public health, a friend of mine that teaches in the medical school in Iowa, and we had a conversation during COVID, and we're talking about the challenges that public health faces. Said it's, Zach, it's really art and science. The health part is science. The public part is art. And that's the real hard part. I think I got the science stuff figured out. It's the people part that I'm continuing to work on. And it's by working with all of my colleagues in the public health department, going back to when it was just Ramsey County and before the merger, that I was able to learn so much from them. I came away from this, folks, with so much more than you got. The ability to work on policy, the ability to affect change where I could recognize that. And I thank all of you, and those that aren't here that I've had an opportunity to work with over the last close to 40 years in this field, for just the great relationships and connections I've had. I'm supposed to show this. This is, we'll go in the Hansen household in a place of honor where the dogs can't chew it. And I'm looking forward to retirement, but as was said, you know where to find me. Happy to answer questions and be there when you need me, because this truly has been a labor of love over these years. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Zach. And we're gonna make some noise for you. We're all on Zoom. Keep the energy and the love, and we really appreciate you and wish you the best of luck in your future and lots of health and happiness as you move forward. Thanks, Zach. All right, we're gonna switch gears. We'll keep celebrating Zach, but we're gonna switch gears because we have a full agenda. And we're gonna turn it over to a presentation about the Ramsey County Parks and Rec. And I'm gonna turn it over to County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And in the interest of time and with a complicated day, I'm going to go right to Parks Director Mark McCabe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, County Manager. Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Today we're going to be presenting the State of the Parks Report. I feel like there's a joke in there somewhere about the State of the Union address and the State of the Parks address happening on the same day. I'll just say that I think this State of the Parks address carries an awful lot of weight. It's pretty important. So with that, I'll transition things over to Mr. Greg Williams, who is the chairperson for the Park Commission. He's just joined us this past year as chair, beginning of 2022. He's got an awful lot of enthusiasm, energy, and passion for the park system. I'm very fortunate to be working alongside him in this role, and happy to have him present the State of the Parks report to you today. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Greg.
Good morning, Madam Chair and commissioners and distinguished guests. I'd like to briefly introduce myself. I was born and raised in Minneapolis and now reside in beautiful Lauderdale, Minnesota. I served over 20 years at the University of Minnesota in facilities management, where I also taught in the School of Kinesiology simultaneously for 5 years. From January 2015 to November 2015, I was employed by Ramsey County Property Management as building manager for the beautiful Ramsey County Courthouse and St. Paul City Hall. If any of you remember Red, I hear she might still be in service. She indoctrinated me into Ramsey County Courthouse culture. So in 2015, the Met Council hired me as an assistant director of facilities for Metro Transit. I retired from Metro Transit in 2018, where I'm now living the life of Riley, winter fat tire biking, mountain biking in the summer, enjoying the outdoors, the North Shore. And now I find myself back in the service of Ramsey County. And as you know, our advisory commission is made up of volunteer members from across the county who are very passionate about the role of parks and recreation plays in our community. We are happy to be here today to share our State of the Parks report with you. Our commission is working to advance racial equity through the Parks 21st Century Initiative. Today, I'll share some recent successes and highlight a few challenges we are experiencing within the various divisions of the Parks and Recreation. As you are all aware, COVID-19 has had major impacts within the Parks and Recreation. Parks and trails have experienced significant increases in usage during the pandemic, as much as double the attendance at some facilities. This is great news. It's very positive aspect to COVID-19. Play at our golf courses increased substantially. I'll share some statistics, excuse me, later in the presentation. Parks staff has worked through several service delivery modifications over the past 2 years, which have had major impacts in the arena system. Also, the majority of parks and recreation staff, around 70%, has been working on site throughout the pandemic to ensure continuity of services for our residents. This has caused some fatigue among staff, but they are very dedicated to their work. I am happy to share some positive news with parks programming, including the expansion of partnerships at the Tamarack Nature Center. Parks and Recreation has partnered with St. Paul Public Schools Early Learning Program, offering all students in the Early Learning Program outdoor education opportunities. So far, in the first year of this program, 47 classrooms from 24 different schools have had students participate with full-day field trips with structured programs and creative nature play. A separate program that has been added to the Parks program portfolio is the creation of a bike fleet available for resident use. Through a statewide grant on health improvement program, Parks purchased a fleet of bikes, including adult and youth bikes, electric assist bikes, balance bikes, and tow-behind trailers for small children. Free bike programs were offered at several regional parks last summer, with plans to continue to offer and grow the program. Programs close to my heart. Other expanded programming and new partnerships included Take Aim at Outdoor Fun, which is a free multi-agency event held at Keller Regional Park that allows families to experience a variety of outdoor activities in one location. Activities include fishing, canoeing, archery, bike riding, nature activities, and more. Over 100 youth participated in this program last summer. Parks also offered free archery and fishing programs to over 350 individuals. Youth from the S'mores Fund program, which is a recreational child care program, participated in swimming, hiking, and nature play, all at Battle Creek Regional Park last summer. As you know, a major function of Parks and Recreation is natural resource stewardship. Another thing that's close to my heart. I am pleased to report that in 2021, over 160 acres of oak woodlands were restored across the system, and 560 acres of additional restorations took place, restoring native prairies, forests, savannas, and shorelines. The images shown here from Long Lake Regional Park illustrate native birds returning to the prairies. Ramsey County Natural Resources are facing several challenges. Ongoing education is needed for the public as people create informal trails that have detrimental impacts by increasing erosion. We are seeing the effects of climate change as we experience cycles of above average rainfall followed by severe drought, which stresses native plant species. As areas around parklands become more populated, neighbors often encroach on the parklands. Finally, is the ever-present challenge of managing invasive species and diseases such as the emerald ash borer. The Soil and Water Division oversees natural resources throughout Ramsey County and beyond county-owned land. Some major accomplishments from this division over the past year include conducting over 300 site visits on water quality projects which help treat and reduce stormwater. Staff also sealed 36 wells, making advances in reducing risks to our groundwater. The Soil and Water team conducted almost 400 instruction inspections, to make sure that projects were in compliance and established practices for protecting soil and water resources. The Soil and Water team is also busy working on updating Ramsey County's geologic atlas, designing projects such as rain gardens and native plantings that create habitat for pollinators, conducting boat inspections at public boat launches to help reduce the spread of aquatic invasive species. The photos below illustrate cleaning boats with a decontamination unit, where Soil and Water also developed a web app to provide education and to track this process. A prescribed burn at Ramsey County Poor Farm Cemetery, collecting water samples at public beaches, volunteers planting trees at Battle Creek Regional Park. As I mentioned earlier, operations in arenas during the pandemic have been challenging. Staff has been working hard to enforce masking indoors, adjust start times with user groups, adapt services throughout the pandemic. Staff is engaging with community to evaluate, explore new and expanded recreational offerings at arenas. We are pursuing additional naming rights agreements at the Aldrich Arena and Fieldhouse at the TCO Sports Garden. We are challenged with needing to think strategically and long-term about the arena system, which does include making upgrades to obsolete refrigeration systems, investing in accessibility improvements, and making energy efficiency upgrades at several facilities, while also examining changing use that matches our residents' recreational needs. Play at golf courses has significantly expanded over the past 2 years. Our golf courses experienced a 26% increase in play since 2019 and a 36% increase in profit since 2019. These additional resources have helped fund expanded free programming in park facilities. Our golf professionals have reported an increase in the our golf professionals have reported an increase in first-time golfers as well as increased play for existing golfers. Work will soon be underway to make critical capital investments at the Goodrich and Manitou Ridge golf courses in this budget cycle. Parks has made several recent facility and site improvements. The Garden House facility at Tamarack Nature Center was winterized. This facility can now serve as a base for programming year-round. Park staff partnered with the City of St. Paul Parks and Recreation and St. Paul Regional Water Services to make site improvements at the Highland Arena. Improvements included expanded pedestrian access, ADA upgrades to improve access for people with special needs, parking lot reconstruction, expanded safety for access into and out of the site for school buses. Parks has also partnered with the City of New Brighton in a jointly funded effort to expand offerings at Long Lake Regional Park. This includes the addition of a park shelter, restroom facility, and parking lot. These buildings are designed as net zero facilities, meaning that they produce equal amount of energy as they consume. Another idea close to my heart. Park staff are currently working on several improvement projects, including completing the design work on Battle Creek Winter Recreation Area facility, which will expand winter recreation opportunities for residents in the East Metro area. I mentioned that work will soon be underway to kick off the improvements at Goodrich and Manitou Ridge golf courses. Finally, we are working with stakeholders on prioritizing future needs that align with our 21st century vision, including expanding regional trails, continuing to increase energy efficiency as we make building upgrades, looking for opportunities to provide additional recreational opportunities with year-round expanded use of facilities. These points are what attracted me to become a commission member. Just as you have done, our park commission has learned to adapt to remote meeting world. Zoom was never in my vocabulary until recently. Here is a composition of our commission. I would like to thank them for their time and dedication to the Ramsey County Parks Commission. And I'd also like to thank you all for your time today to allow us to share what is taking place in Parks and Recreation. Please let Mark or I know if you have any questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gregory, for a really thorough and engaging report. Mark, did you have any final comments?
Again, I just want to thank Greg and all commission members for their work on the commission. It does serve a very important advisory function, and they all bring, and especially Greg, a lot of passion, energy, enthusiasm, and just that connection to residents that's so important. They really are helping us advance those initiatives around the 21st century vision. Very passionate about equity, about having our commission and staff be reflective of the community that we serve, of really working with residents to engage with them, to make sure that we're meeting their recreational needs. So I just appreciate all their time and energy that goes into making for a great park system.
We have a couple of questions. I'll start with Commissioner McGuire and then Commissioner Carter. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I just want to add my thanks and gratitude to you, Greg, for your great report. That was really exciting and wonderful. I'm guessing I'm going to feel much better after this report than the one I might hear tonight at the State of the Union. So I'm so grateful that you were able to give us a great accounting of what we've been working on, and you've all been working on this past year. So thanks to you and all the commission members. I just want to give a shout out to all the great programming that I am seeing in the parks. You know, I went to the Winter Sampler. I've gone to Long Lake Regional Park. I'm I'm excited about the Battle Creek. I'm so excited about the work that you're doing at Lake McCarran, at our artwork that's going on there, our arts in the parks there. I mean, there's so many innovative and creative things that we're doing with our communities and with our cities and our nonprofits. Just thank you, Greg, for being a commission that's really open and innovative and creative in making sure that our parks are really working on all of these things. And Mark, to you and your staff, of course, you have an amazing staff that I see at all of these events. And so just want to give a shout out to all of you for all of your great work. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire, Commissioner Carter, and then Commissioner Reinhardt.
I too just want to add my congratulations and thanks, and to you in particular, Mr. Williams, and all of the commission members for your acumen and ability to steward the work that is happening through the department. It's incredible to hear from you the overview of all of that work. And of course, thank you to our staff who's done such stellar work during difficult times with increasing use and activity of our parks and trails, our arenas, even the golf courses, you know, all of the work that you've done in stewarding the environment. You have been remarkable. Thank you so very much. And I want to add a special note of appreciation for the increased partnerships and projects throughout our county. Our Parks and Rec director and staff have been adept at adopting and spreading the incredible work that we do throughout the entire county, including in new partnerships with St. Paul. So thank you so very much for that focus on engaging across our community, for achieving the work that needs to bring equity across our county for all. Thank you so very, very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell you, I feel like I'm walking down memory lane here. And it's also a testament to my age, I guess. But I remember when Tamarack Center was a trailer. I mean, and even the work that they provided then, or the support that they provided then when I took my sons there, and the classes that would come through and how you had to be single file and have only 6 kids in the trailer at a time, and just the vision that was there. And it was there from that beginning. I mean, we knew from the very beginning that that wasn't what it was going to be, but they were so excited to get things started that that's where we started there. And you look again at all of the vision and the role of the Parks Commission in that, in fulfilling that vision from an environmental perspective, a recreation perspective, and a fiduciary perspective, trying to make sure that we were investing where we needed to. And so the work of our Parks Department has won many accolades as well. And I think today, the state of the parks and rec area for Ramsey County, we should be proud of the things. I know that we are proud of the things that have moved forward in a very responsible way. So I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Thank you again, Mark, for a presentation, and for Gregory for your leadership on the council. Thank you for presenting for us today. I'll say that this has been the best parks update to date. So I'll just make that declaration. So we can't wait to see what you've got for us next year. Thank you all. With that, we are going to move on and pick up our pace a little bit, given the time constraints and our loaded day. And we will move to our COVID update. So, County Manager.
Thanks, Madam Chair. And there's a lot in this update today based on changing guidance. There was a moment last Friday when Ramsey County was at high risk as defined by the CDC. And then 30 minutes later, we were defined as low risk, although for a 30-minute period that then followed, depending upon if you used a cell phone or a desktop, some of us saw high and some of us saw low, which led to an entire Laurel and Hardy skit going back and forth on Friday. But we have clarity for you today. I'm going to open today, and then I'll go to public health to provide more background and data. Thanks to Director Holly and the entire team. We've been really grinding through it all to make sure our information is up to date coming into today's board meeting and beyond. I'm going to do a number of key updates here right at the beginning to get them to the top, and then we'll talk about the data underpinning all of it and can take any questions you all have. At the open, what I want to say is the new COVID guidelines from the CDC are welcomed and they're appreciated. They're simplified from before, and they're attempting to become more responsive to an ongoing pandemic 2 years in. That does not mean they're infallible nor perfect in terms of what they show. And from Director Holly, you'll hear ways that public health will continue to try to look beyond a red, yellow, green, low, medium, high risk rubric to better understand not only where we might be at point in time, but where we're headed. But I think the takeaway is we are aligning, as we have throughout, with the CDC guidance around low, medium, high risk that has now been revised. That'll be our guidance going forward. And as of last Friday, Ramsey County is now in the low or green category as a community. Yes, it is worth an applause, no matter how we feel about where we head in the future. These are good moments across a 2-year period. It means a lot. And so as we've talked about what it means on our end, I want to give a couple of key updates out of the gate. I also want to acknowledge we have spent time talking to the courts and the city of St. Paul as we share the county courthouse downtown. We'll be sharing all information with all partners, schools, municipalities throughout Ramsey County. Our goal is alignment whenever possible. And while we have remained aligned with CDC guidance, that has varied across the region at different times. And the more we can stay in alignment moving forward, the more predictable life is for residents who are just trying to make it through as safely as possible with the decisions they make day to day. First, masks. As of this morning, our mask policy has been updated and posted and signed off on by the county manager under the authority granted by the board. It has been updated to adhere to the new CDC guidance. And while Director Holly will probably say a little bit more specifically, the long and short of it would be our signage will change on buildings this week. It is no longer required to wear a mask in Ramsey County buildings. There are recommendations that unvaccinated individuals, immunocompromised individuals, or others who are concerned about their health wear masks. And so we'll have a recommendation in that spot on our doors as a part of our ongoing guidance during a pandemic. But whenever we are in green or yellow, low or medium, masks will not be required in county-owned buildings unless there is a federal or state requirement that supersedes that guidance. That policy has gone into place. In the next couple of days, all our buildings will switch out. It takes a little time. That process is starting right now. And in the meantime, our departments know to not enforce any existing requirement sign on a building. In the area of returning to the office, you may recall we started phase 1 of our return to office plan last November 1st. We were in a high level of risk, and so we immediately went remote first per our policy. We are now in the low risk level, and so it allows us to begin to move out of our remote first policy. As of this Thursday, March 3rd, phase 1 employees in Ramsey County, which involve courthouse employees, the county board, which would count as courthouse employees, but I wanted to call you out specifically here, and the strategic team departments of finance and HR, including then also, although they're already operating in their function, all on-site employees for the organization who have been full-time on-site the entire way, plus our community embedded employees. They will receive a workspace alert on Thursday, March 3rd that says our return to office takes effect under our new flexible work policy beginning Monday, March 21st. So that will be the first group. We promised at least 2 weeks of notice. We're giving 18 days, and quietly we've been working with these groups to be ready for those changes. Exciting things to share about how logistically finance and HR are moving into a shared suite under our new policy going forward. The work happening in the courthouse, I'll save that for another week. But needless to say, as we come back, we're not just coming back the way we operated 2 years ago. That's hard, but also very exciting in terms of our long-term trajectory. If you were then wondering, what does that mean for the entire rest of the organization, phase 2 and phase 3 of this approach, based on our timelines we laid out, you could see phase 2 occur as soon as June 1st and phase 3 occur as soon as August 1st. Those are targets. There's a lot of unknowns between now and then. But in a perfect world, by Labor Day, the full organization will be operating under our new policy. There's a lot of changes happening to buildings in the meantime. We're going to continue to do our work to make these changes on the fly. And our goal all the way along is to learn, adapt, and continue to be leaders and supporters of one another along the way. Final piece, so we talked masks, we talked return to office. I want to mention meeting guidance. The board has had their conversations and said they plan to return March 15th per the conversations that we've all had. So a week from next Tuesday will be the first in-office meeting again for the county board in the courthouse. The chief clerk is working with the county manager to let all of our areas know across the organization to make switches by March 21st, so aligned with the return to office time for our groups and their meetings, particularly those that are statutorily required under open meeting law to be meeting under the same guidance as the county board. So the changes are happening there as well. For groups like the library board, for example, would be one of many groups where there's a statutory requirement. So we're working to make those changes occur. They will be occurring by March 21 as well. There may be some lag in terms of a couple of meetings if they've already been scheduled. We're working through all the logistics of the big moves forward. I'm going to stop there, Madam Chair, and I'll turn it to the more specific public health update around numbers and what we're seeing, and then we'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. Director Holly.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners, County Manager O'Connor. It's great to be back here with you this morning. I'll start off by saying that Omicron still remains the dominant COVID variant across the U.S., but as County Manager O'Connor has mentioned this morning, the good news is we are still seeing our cases decline here in Ramsey County, so we are winning on that end. On Friday, CDC launched a new COVID-19 community levels tool to monitor the number of new cases in communities across the country, and the burden of COVID-19 is placing on local healthcare systems. Thank you, Mike. This new approach aims to minimize the impact of COVID that has had on our healthcare systems and society, while focusing on efforts on protecting those who are most at risk of severe illness. As you can see the image on the screen, the COVID-19 community level shown combines metrics of the proportion of hospital capacity devoted to caring for COVID-19 patients, the number of new patients with COVID-19 admitted to the hospital in the past week, and the number of new COVID-19 cases in the country or in the county in the past week to identify when a community is facing a low, medium, or high level of risk for COVID-19. These data tell us how much the virus is spreading in an area, how many people in the area are getting sick enough to require medical care, and if the area's healthcare system has the resources to provide care for all patients, whether or not they have COVID-19. CDC also recommends specific personal and community prevention measures at each of these three levels. Like all guidance during the pandemic, the COVID-19 community levels may be updated or changed in the future as the situation evolves. Public health decisions about prevention methods to reduce COVID-19's impact on our communities will continue to consider local factors and data sources such as our vaccination and booster coverage, capacity for detecting new cases and emerging variants, local populations at risk for severe disease, our levels of testing in the community, and as shown on the screen, CDC's new COVID-19 levels data related to, as I mentioned before, the proportion of hospital capacity devoted to caring for COVID-19 patients, the number of new patients with COVID admitted to the hospital in the past week, and the number of new COVID-19 cases in the county in the past week. As shown on the screen, as of today, Ramsey County's community level is low. When our community level is low, the CDC recommendation is to stay up to date with the COVID-19 vaccine. So we really urge people to still get their vaccines and their boosters and to get tested if you have symptoms. When our community level is low, people may choose to mask at any time, and that's perfectly okay. When the CDC's COVID-19 community level for Ramsey County is medium or low, as County Manager O'Connor mentioned, it's recommended that employees and visitors who are unvaccinated, immunocompromised, or at higher risk for complications associated with COVID-19 wear a face covering. As County Manager O'Connor stated earlier, based on the new CDC guidance on community levels, Ramsey County's mask guidance in county buildings will change as of today. Masks will continue to still be available to people that would like them and that need them based on the guidance mentioned above. Our mask policy has been updated and more information will be located on our RamseyNet internet page. Thank you, Mike. We can stop sharing this screen. In order to remain, to keep our community level low as a county, per the CDC guidance, we still want everyone to do their part to prevent the spread of COVID-19, and I can't stress that enough. One thing we want people, just to remind people of, is that, stay home when you're sick. If you're symptomatic, if you have a positive COVID test, are exposed to somebody with COVID-19, you should also wear a mask. Continue to follow CDC recommendations for isolation and quarantine, including getting tested if you're exposed to COVID or have symptoms of COVID-19. Mike, if we could briefly show the vaccine dashboard, that would be excellent. I'll start off by saying that only 81% of people in Ramsey County have received 1 dose of vaccine, with parts of our county still below 75%. Mike, if we could scroll down to the weekly summary, that would be wonderful. Thank you. So St. Paul Ramsey County is still urging people to get vaccinated and boosted when eligible. You can get your 2nd dose, as we've mentioned before, or booster shot with Ramsey County, even if you got your 1st dose somewhere else. During the past week, 364 doses of vaccine were administered through 5 COVID-19 clinics across existing client services. For the week of February 27th through March 5th, we expect to administer about 500 doses of vaccine. You can, of course, learn more about our vaccine clinics and distribution at ramseycounty.us/vaccine. Thank you, Mike. We urge people to continue to get tested on a regular basis, as there are many COVID testing sites located both here in our community and statewide. It's our last day at our Ramsey County COVID testing site over at Frogtown Community Center. We're open today from 3 to 7 p.m. And I just want to extend a huge thank you to our COVID testing team. We launched this back on January 27th. We have an incredible team in public health that continues to be ready to respond to COVID. And we appreciate our partnership with Frogtown Community Center and the City of St. Paul Parks and Rec Department. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague and friend, Dr. Lynn Ogawa, to talk through the recent changes that have been made to our COVID-19 case dashboard. I want to send a special thanks to Christine Grill, Nora Moore, and Communications for making these changes so quickly yesterday. Dr. Ogawa.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, Director Holly, thanks. I will have Mike pull up the dashboard. Nothing like the CDC changing some of the numbers on us, but again, with the help of Christine Grill and Nora Moore, we were able to make some shifts very quickly, and I appreciate that. So right away, you will see the initial change with the banner now showing the community level as opposed to the transmission rates. And we did include a little bit of a description because it is going to take some time for individuals to understand the difference of what we were looking at before and what we're looking at now to guide the community decisions. For us in public health, we remain committed, just as Director Holly mentioned, to be looking at all of the data that does give us direction among a number of things. You can go ahead and scroll down, Mike. We maintained total number of cases. I think this is a good touch point for people to really continue to be able to see the overall effect COVID has had on our county. Scroll a little bit further, please. And now we're focusing a little bit on, or we're focusing on that data that goes into that community level. So this is new cases by day. If you were to look at the CDC guidance completely, the first point of decision making is the number of cases and whether or not the new cases are above 200 or below 200. And so this is an important point for folks to be able to see and share that data that we have. Go ahead and scroll a little bit. And this just breaks down the infection cases and the reinfection, because we also want to be monitoring, especially as we see Omicron or potentially new variants, whether or not individuals are again potentially able to be reinfected. And we want to be watching that carefully. Go ahead and scroll a little bit farther. We are maintaining also, and the CDC is also maintaining this information, that of community transmission, because this is interesting. While the other data was shown to be very good at prediction of potential high-risk patients needing more hospitalization and more medical care, community transmission still is something that we're going to be watching carefully. And so as you can see right now, we are at approximately 80 cases per 100,000. And then I'll have you just scroll again. These are the graphs that we've been showing consistently throughout the pandemic. And then our weekly positivity within Ramsey County currently sits at 5.3. I'm going to have you scroll just a little bit more down, Mike. And this shows our test positivity by zip code. We've been talking and we've been paying attention throughout this pandemic to those individuals in higher social vulnerability. That's one word I can't say. I can say lots of medical terms, but vulnerability is a harder one for me. And we want to make sure, as we also watch our vaccination rates rise in certain areas, that we're taking into account all of those pieces that may show a different effect within different regions. And so it's very important for us to be keeping an eye on those differences, along with our race and ethnicity data as well. Lastly, I'll have Mike scroll down. We have added the data from the states and St. Paul about wastewater. I do believe that this is County Manager O'Connor's favorite new graph. He shared that with me. And what it's looking at right now is the viral load within wastewater within the 7-county metro area. This has been shown over time to also be a good predictor of when we will see rises in cases. And lastly, this is also where the CDC and the state watch for variants and variants that they need, that they think might be expanding. And so as we begin to get more information back about variants, we may add a graph that would explain that. But currently, it's been a little bit difficult because that's new data. So this, I think, is a really good way for our constituents to also see that we're watching in many different ways, right? About where COVID is showing up and when we need to be more concerned. So that is our latest updates to our COVID case dashboard. And I'll turn it back to Director Hawley.
Thank you, Dr. Ogawa. I'll turn it back to County Manager O'Connor for final comments.
Madam Chair, and thanks to the team. I didn't know the dashboard would be up and even updated by today. That's a lot of work that was going on yesterday. And adding the wastewater data is good. You know, the one thing I will say when you look at the Met Council site is it shows you how you see the information that's about to happen in case counts about 6 or 7 days early. And so that's one of those reasons why, as we add relevant pieces here, it's really helpful. I appreciate the partnership in the courthouse conversations. Our partners are very much aligned with the direction here. The state's executive council for judges are meeting soon. They're working on their own guidance. And in the meantime, I feel like through a challenging time, everybody's doing the best they can to align around new standards. And we're going to take the optimistic side of what it means while remaining very much cognizant of the idea that the pandemic is not yet over. Thanks, Madam Chair. We'll pause for any questions or comments.
Thank you very much for a very thorough update and for the team really for moving so quickly. But it goes to show the amount of work that public health put in to help our community be healthy, vaccinated, and informed is paying off. And so as we see those green numbers, we really can look to celebrate our work at public health. Commissioner McGuire has a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So thank you all so much again for all your work and for being so quick to update our dashboard. Dr. Ogawa, so this is a question about masking. So a number of us are heading into this statewide conference, this, at the legislative conference this week. And so are you thinking that we will be okay if we don't wear masks, or if we really care, we should still wear a mask? We'll be with lots of people in rooms that probably aren't going to be social distanced. We're not sure if, there's no mask or immunization requirement to probably be at this conference. Just curious what your recommendation might be.
Madam Chair, Commissioner McGuire. As always, my recommendations are, following layered mitigation. And the less you know about the situation, the way that I do is the more I err on the side of caution. And so you listed a whole number of reasons to me that I would consider my own personal highest level of mitigation. So that is my fancy way of saying, to your question, if I was going to that meeting, I would be wearing a mask. Again, the reality is we want to be recognizing that we are doing well, and we want to be able to make changes in levels of mitigation appropriate to the level of risk that we have. And right now, the CDC's data is reassuring us that in many situations and in many places, the overall community risk is low. However, again, everyone gets to make a decision about their own personal health and their own personal risk. And so that's.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Commissioner McGuire, I'd also just add that, this new tool is a way for people to see what's happening around us, right? And so as Dr. Ogawa mentioned that, mitigating risk, but also, wherever you're traveling, wherever you live, right? We know that especially at conferences, people are coming from a variety of places. So knowing the environment that you're walking into and using this tool to assess risk, I think is another way that we can maybe reassure ourselves of that environment, right? And that situation. So I would also add just utilizing this tool to assess risk.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. It's been a long time, and this is good news, and certainly to be celebrated. Thank you for bringing so much information about our current status for today. I wanted to ask, I know that it was said earlier that in Ramsey County, the average, I think, is 81% one dose having been vaccinated. And this is really good news that we're sharing today. Are you also able to share the extent to which we are 2-dose or boosted up? And is there any additional information about potential for a third dose or a second booster that you can share?
Chair, Ms. Castillo and Commissioner Carter, that's a really important question. Currently, the state and the CDC do not collect easily the data on individuals who are boosted. We have the data on the individuals who are fully vaccinated, but we don't, or fully have finished their initial 2 doses. We don't, they have not, it's hard to explain, but they haven't crosswalked third doses to individuals yet completely. And so we do look forward to hopefully being able to monitor that data as well. Because many of the recommendations from the CDC now use the phrase, and the important phrase, of up to date on vaccination, which includes that booster. And so as we make decisions, as individuals make their decisions about their individual risk, it will be important for us to be looking at that information as well. So we're looking forward to having access to that, but not quite yet.
Madam Chair, Commissioners, I will say that to date, to add on to what Dr. Ogawa just mentioned, we have administered 3,819 boosters through our site. So we'll continue to make sure that we have messaging going out to community about the importance of vaccines, plus the boosters. We're still waiting for ACIP and the FDA to, of course, start their work again on our under 5 community and vaccines. Looking forward to that opportunity to get that going. But we're still urging people, especially in the areas where we see that folks not being above that 80% in certain zip codes. Public health, along with our research partners and communications, are working daily to get information out to community around the importance of vaccination and boosters.
Thank you for that, and thank you for another great update. I don't see any other hands, so I'll excuse the public health folks. You're off the hook now, and we'll move on to the rest of our agenda. I'm going to turn to Commissioner Ortega to lead us through our administrative items. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to move item number 5, civil penalty fine schedule for violations of Ramsey County Park Ordinance. Item number 6, agreement with AP Midwest for Ramsey County Historical Society Gibbs Farm Master Plan Design, Build Part 1. Item number 7, grant award from the Ministry of Human Services for Behavioral Health. Item number 8, joint powers agreement with the City of Roseville to implement co-responder pilot program. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Great, thank you. Is there a second? A second? Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. We now have 2 ordinance procedures. We have our proposed community and economic development department ordinance waive of first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
McDonough,
Aye.
McGuire,
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. We have the proposed community and economic development department ordinance set of hearing on the date of March 22nd or soon thereafter. Is there?
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? None. Roll call, please.
Ortega,
Aye.
Reinhardt,
Aye.
Carter,
Aye.
Bretham,
Aye.
McDonough. I don't.
He's here.
Or he was frozen. We'll circle back.
I'm back here. Or aye.
Thank you. McGuire
Aye.
and Modis Castillo.
Aye. All right, we're going to go to legislative from Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As always, the weeks start out really, really busy. The February forecast came in yesterday. As we know, another surplus added to the previous one of $9.2 billion. So lots of conversation will be going on about what will happen with that. And we know there's a lot of needs in our state. And of course, we'll be working hard with our legislators to work on how we allocate those resources for the best of our residents. So people are urging caution about doing tax cuts because national economic growth is slowing and the effects of inflation and of course the Russia-Ukraine conflict are not reflected in this. And so we just want to urge caution as to how that is allocated. Also, I was able to testify first time in person for I think any of us this year. And I was happy to testify on behalf of all of our metro parks in the Senate Environment, Natural Resources and Legacy Funding Committee. And it was to restore the lottery and lieu sales tax back to its original 97%. You know, we've got a tax on the lottery proceeds and it's supposed to go to our parks and rec and our environment. And the legislature's been dipping into that. So this was a bipartisan bill, I might say, authored by Senator Kerry Rood and Representative Rick Hansen. And so we're hopeful that this will happen and it will restore more dollars back into our metro parks. So, and with that also, AMC is having their annual legislative meeting this week.
start Wednesday and Thursday. So many of us will be meeting with our legislators on AMC issues and and which align with Ramsey County. I just got my schedule being in leadership with AMC, and I get to talk about housing for AMC and for Ramsey County. I will be adding in with our leadership in the House and Senate. So just grateful to everyone for all of your work and for attending those meetings, and also, of course, to Jennifer O'Rourke and Melissa Finnegan for all their work as our government relations staff. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Reinhardt, add to this?
Yes, thank you. Well, half of my update actually was, or majority of my update was going to be about the Clean Water Council. Had a policy committee meeting last Friday, and on Monday passed a resolution of support for the Pig's Eye landfill task force. It was unanimous in both the policy committee and in the Clean Water Council. So a letter has been drafted and will be sent out to the legislators, to the, I'm trying to think, it goes through a process so that it gets there very quickly and is in support of this task force. I spoke a couple of, probably almost a month ago now, about a meeting that I'd had or that I participated in with the leadership in the environmental leadership in the House and Senate, Congresswoman McCollum, Mayor of St. Paul. It was and others. I mean, now I'm going to forget somebody, so I don't want to do that. But the bottom line is, we need to have this. We need to know where we're going. And yesterday, when I was making the presentation at the Clean Water Council, I said it reminds me of Alice in Wonderland when she gets to the fork in the road and asks the Cheshire cat, which way should I go? And the cat says, it depends on where you want to be. And that's what, to me, this task force is about. We need to know exactly what we're getting into, and I think it's been well thought out as far as who would be on it, what the outcomes should be, so that we have a roadmap for how to deal with this extremely complex and longstanding problem of having a dump. That's what it was called. It wasn't called a landfill. It was the Pig's Eye dump in the floodplain of the Mississippi River. And so I will be testifying on this on Thursday, and I'm very pleased that I was able to shepherd this through the Clean Water Council, because it is recognized there. It seems so obvious, but at the same time, you have to sometimes remind people. The Mississippi River is incredibly critical to not only our city, our county, our state, but to this country, and quite frankly, to the world, as far as what happens along that river. And so, protecting our water and making sure that we're doing the environmental stewardship that we need to do at the beginning of the Mississippi River is incredibly important. So raising awareness and making sure that we're moving forward with this. Thank you, Legislative Chair McGuire and Chair Montes-Castillo.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. I have one more thing, Madam Chair, just to remind people that tonight is an event honoring David Tomasoni, who, as we all know, suffers from ALS. It's a fundraiser for ALS, and also honoring him. He's announced his retirement from the Senate. And so tonight's an opportunity to recognize him and his work, and honor and fundraise for ALS. Thanks. It's at 5 to 7 at the Carpenters Hall in Olive Street, 7 o'clock program, chaired by Dick Cohen, our former state senator from Ramsey County.
Thank you, Commissioner McGuire. We'll turn to County Connections. County Manager O'Connor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. 2 updates. The federal trial, as you all know, ended Thursday afternoon last week. And with the conclusion of the trial, I wanted to let the board know that 2nd Street reopened yesterday in downtown St. Paul. The fence removal around the East Building started on Monday. It may be continuing into this morning. I have not been by it this morning to know if it's fully done yet. Barrier removal, that was what anchored the fencing, begins Tuesday and goes into Wednesday if needed. And the drop box in front of East is once again available to the public. That was our most popular drop box over the last 2 years. From an outside drop box perspective, the information kiosk that has existed there to direct people to the moved downtown service center that's been operating out of Metro Square continues, at least for the next 10 days. Signage is changing to move off of fences to become more clear about where, continuing to use the same type of signage, but getting it off the fences as a way to do it. All of this is building toward, I have confirmation the fence is down. Okay, thank you. Thank you to the people watching who can help me out on the fly. As a part of that, one of the things we've discussed here briefly and we've had a chance to talk about as well is while the federal trial precipitated a movement of our downtown service center and forward innovation that was able to occur through better proximity, while there have been some challenges like workforce solutions not being able to be fully integrated due to the size of the space, the reality is we have no intention of returning to the previous downtown service center. We've learned too much and seen too much opportunity, and residents, in terms of how we're serving them, we do not see that this was in fact in the end a backward movement for us. And so we have moved ourselves away from the federal timeline moving forward. We are evaluating a few different spaces right now through our Residents First working group involving property management, all the departments that are a part of an integrated downtown service center. I look forward to sharing more with you in the coming weeks. But in the meantime, we are going to stay in the place where we've currently been operating, how we've been operating. We're going to continue to ensure residents are getting high quality service, but there are structural limitations to a building that has been in our system as long as Ramsey County East, which even with the heroic efforts of individuals, there's a recognition that simply moving from that space into a new opportunity where we can better align with the county we've become, not who we were, holds much value. In terms of other staff in that building, that's an ongoing piece of phase 2 and 3 of our return to office. That's a bigger conversation than we are prepared to have today. I just want to flag for you that we had always in our strategic facilities planning planned on the idea that the East Building was not a long-term anchor for Ramsey County. That timeline has been moved up through some factors that were beyond us, but there's opportunity that comes with that, and we don't want to miss that opportunity simply to go back to the way we were doing things. I appreciate commissioners and their ongoing support and guidance. You've been all extremely helpful in sharing ideas and thoughts on steps forward. I appreciate the team across this organization working on it. It is extremely stressful to be doing this while we're doing return to office, and yet it is the right thing to be doing. And I'm really excited about some of the opportunity in front of us. So definitely more to come, and we will keep you posted as we move forward. I final add to that, the board workshop on the public health conversation around the 555 Cedar building. It was actually very helpful as well, because the future service delivery opportunities that conversation presents for us as we move forward helped to free up our ability to make these moves. And so thank you for that workshop as well. Final update from me, Commissioner Carter and I, along with some of our leaders in corrections, including outgoing Director John Clavens, attended a session yesterday about justice reinvestment in Minnesota. It was one of 2 sessions that have been offered to commissioners. It was formed, this whole effort was formed under a bipartisan legislative move out of the Minnesota House, and aligns with, there's 2 groups that have been meeting, like a practitioner group and a leadership group. County Attorney Choi has been on the governor's council side of the leadership group as well. It was a powerful session, and you can be close to these things and still learn things along the way. I will make sure the full report goes out. And if nothing else, please read the recommendations on the front. It guides us moving forward in terms of what we need to do. The 2 things that stand out are counties do not get funded equally across this state in terms of probation supports. And Ramsey County comes in as actually the largest local share relative to state share of contribution of any place in the state of Minnesota. We are working so hard to do a good job here, but it was like a reminder of the current in a river that we need to be able to start to find a way to go with the river at times, not always against it. Commissioner Carter may say more during her update. The final piece is out of 50 states, Minnesota invests the least of any state in the United States in probation work. Part of that is a good news story based on not incarcerating as many individuals, but that alone does not tell that story. We need to see larger investment in our probation system to be able to achieve the goals in this report. And this directly aligns with building a safer and more inclusive community and the conversations we've had locally. It was a striking presentation. I appreciate Ramsey County Corrections for being at that table, for County Attorney Choi, and for all of your leadership through AMC and statewide efforts. But it's a real clarion call to action for all of us moving forward as we think about where investment is needed. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, County Manager O'Connor. Let's go into our board, outside board and committee reports. We'll start with Commissioner Reinhardt.
Thank you. Wow, we've gotten a lot of information today. I think the only other update that I will talk about is the Rice Larpenteur Alliance and the community event. And it was well attended. It was great to be able to listen to all the folks, including our own commissioners. So they're doing amazing things. You know, coming from an idea, just, you know, I remember meeting with Council Member Brendamone and talking about this dream in many ways and how we are really investing there. So it's exciting, and I know that others on this board are very involved, and we're part of that as well. But it's transformational, and it's fun to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Reinhardt. Commissioner Carter.
Thank you very much. I'll start where County Manager O'Connor left off. I was able to attend along with Director Clavens and County Manager O'Connor, the Justice Reinvestment Information Session for AMC yesterday. And although it was the first general session I've been able to attend, they've had two, I had been apprised of the work, and you know, we all are very excited about the potential for policy change and funding in that area where we have already been investing. You know, you can be assured that the work that Ramsey County is doing, you see our large investment is leadership work in terms of that justice reinvestment arena. We are ahead, and we hope to be able to continue this work. It is imperative that we work to achieve this Justice Reinvestment Act full comprehensive funding. And there are, you know, a number of acts that are taking place right now with respect to movement forward out of the recommendations, a smaller placeholder that's being recommended. But we are working with our legislature to ensure that a proposal will move forward that is more comprehensive, that even provides support for us to continue the aggressive movement that we have been undertaking. So thank you to Director Clavens and to County Manager O'Connor for the support of that work, and to our staff that is moving it forward. I also want to share that last month, I didn't give a report this past week, but we were able to reprise our Juvenile Detention Alternatives Initiative stakeholder meetings this past February with a good gathering of stakeholders across our justice system, participating in an update where we've been, and also to understand how we're moving forward in the juvenile detention alternatives arena, which is such a foundation for youth justice transformation, as well as for our justice system's transformation overall. It's important that stakeholders be together, reviewing information, assessing gaps, and determining changes that may need to happen as we move forward, but doing so systematically with data and information, observation of the real work that needs to be done on the ground so that young people and their families are supported to achieve better trajectories. It's important that we emphasize the work over time, the enhancement of our work on their outcomes, on safety, and on equity as we have seen the improvements hand in hand over time. And that we are in a time right now where close observation is required to understand and to solve the right concerns. So we are very, very glad to be at the table with stakeholders again and meeting regularly. You should know that tri-chairs have been meeting regularly along with staff, but that this, since early pandemic, is the first reconvening of that stakeholder team. I also just want to share that we're working in the Criminal Justice Coordinating Committee, which I always want to call Community Justice Coordinating Committee, by the way. Let me just admit that. We're working on that envisioning process, and the CJCC will be coming together this coming week, I believe, to reprise that visioning and to continue that work of stakeholders together to reduce offenses and offending across Ramsey County. Based on our own decisions and changes that we can make, as well as community enhancements. This past week also, we had a bail reform community engagement session. And I want to just thank County Attorney Choi and Eli Darris, who have been convening as co-chairs the bail reform work, the community group, the executive team, and now with these community engagement sessions have gathered the input also of most impacted individuals. And I would thank specifically Rich Stevens for his work on gathering participation from our own Ramsey County Corrections Facility with insights coming from people who've been impacted by the bail system with respect to how we can do a better job assisting their trajectories for success. So the last thing I will mention is that I was able to attend a meeting at the Rondo Plaza with our Senator Smith, who was there to hear information about the efforts along Reconnect Rondo. It was a great session. She was able to hear from the roundtable that has convened of community organizations working together with Rondo Avenue Inc. and Reconnect Rondo. She was very inspirational and I think also very inspired about the work of that project and its success in achieving both state and federal resources and moving forward. I hope to be able to share more with you about that in coming months. Thank you. I'll cut it short. Or shorter.
Mr. Fretham. Thanks. I'll try to be quick. I know I didn't give an update last week, so I want to catch up before the list gets too long. Lots of meetings over the last 2 weeks, including Metro Conservation District, Metro Mosquito Control Commission, Ramsey County Children's Mental Health Collab, Metro Alliance for Healthy Families, Generation Next, Ramsey County Extension, Community Action Partnership of Ramsey, Washington Counties, a board meeting and committee meetings, including our Executive Director Search Committee, our Finance Committee, and Executive Committees will meet tonight. Highlights of all these meetings. I was elected vice chair of the Metro Conservation District. It's the highlight of all those meetings. Excited for tonight. There is the Lake Johanna Corridor Study virtual open house. I know there are a lot of folks in my area, especially in Arden Hills, who are very interested in what we can do to improve that corridor and roadway. And finally, I have to give a shout out to the Roseville Area Middle School. They had their student written one acts, which they performed this weekend. I got to see them twice because I'm just that lucky, but they did an amazing job, and it's hard to believe that they were all written by middle schoolers. So very, very good work, and excited for this next generation of folks in Ramsey County.
Great. Thank you so much, Commissioner Fretham. Commissioner McDonough.
No report, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner McGuire.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also don't want to let the list get too long since we didn't have a report out. But first, I just want to give a shout out to one of our board items. I didn't pull it from the agenda, but it is the Joint Powers Agreement with the City of Roseville to implement a co-responder pilot program. This is one of those great successful programs where we partner with one of our cities by providing a social worker within their community action team, which is their response team for issues that are going on in their community. And so I just want to give a shout out to that. I know Maplewood has this, and now Roseville's joining that, and it's a great program. Also, the last few weeks have, as Commissioner Fretham was saying, lots of meetings, Extension Committee, MELSA, is continuing with their strategic planning, our Metro Libraries Association meeting. The state of Roseville had their, the city of Roseville had their state of Roseville talk at the business council meeting, and Mayor Dan Rowe is really good about acknowledging the partnerships with Ramsey County. And so I just want to give a shout out to those partnerships with another city. The Suburban Ramsey Family Collaborative had their joint powers, their quarterly joint powers agreement, where we affirmed the funding mechanism, the funding partnership for our LCTS dollars, and that was good. The AMC Board of Directors met last Friday, where we are finalizing our AMC strategic plan, and so that was really good. And with that, Madam Chair, I will end my report, because I gave a lot during my legislative report about the upcoming AMC Legislative Conference.
Great, thank you, Commissioner McGuire. Commissioner Ortega.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll make it brief. It's been a couple of busy 2-3 weeks for all of us with all these meetings that are sort of coming back. Let me just say the two highlights. Review Policy Advisory Committee. We've met, we had a great meeting reporting out on the progress of the corridor. I think the highlight of that meeting would be the river crossing, which is the most difficult, not only in terms of engineering, but in terms of the fact that it's a sacred place of the Native American community. I just want to report out that we have a great relationship. We built a great relationship with the tribes. They're working hand in hand with us, and how could I say, they've become very opening to solving solutions to the river crossing. And I think we'll come to a solution within the next 4 months or so, 3 to 4 months, on the river crossing anyway. With the Gold Line, great news there. We should be into construction by the end of this year. Moving forward, we had a meeting, Jim was there also, had a meeting with Washington County on the Joint Powers Board, and moving that forward into the next phase. The other thing is, I've met with Representative Ardal. I don't know if I've mentioned this regarding River's Edge. Very positive meeting. He is supportive of our project, and hopefully we could continue to get the necessary support for the River's Edge project as we move forward. I'll make my report short. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, and Commissioner Reinhardt.
Yes, thank you. And I apologize. When you mentioned the Gold Line, there was a major thing that didn't happen in White Bear Lake at their city council. They had a resolution that ended up being tabled on the Purple Line and opposing it because there was a lot of, quite frankly, a lot of misinformation in the resolution, and a city council member stood up and said, you know what, there's the only thing that I would vote for is, the opposition to it, but knowing how we're moving forward, because it was, as you all know, it's been difficult in dealing with this. The fact of the matter is, the city of White Bear Lake, the city council, I mean, the 2 to 3 votes, 2 to 3 outcomes of votes on the Purple Line have been part of the history of this line. And so they plan to bring it back. It was tabled for 2 weeks, but if you are interested, it was a pretty amazing city council meeting. The passion and moving forward and trying to figure out what is best. But I think it's important to note that the city council is, it's not that all of White Bear Lake doesn't want this Purple Line. And I think the message from the Met Council and from the counties, or from the county and moving forward, is a pretty strong one. So we'll see what happens and what they bring back. But it was stated very clearly that by one of the city council members that the purpose of this was not only to stop or try to stop, put pressure to try to stop the purple line, but that it would empower all the cities on any line that's out there, and how that would, that they could show, they would set precedent by doing this. So I was surprised, but I just wanted to make sure that everybody had that input, and the partnership in working with the Met Council and the commitment there to do fact-based decision making is pretty important. And I know that we've all been through this with different lines, but it's pretty important. So I wanted to make sure that I got that in. Thank you, Commissioner Ortega, for mentioning the gold line, because this was an important milestone. We'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. But regardless of what happens, it would probably be a 3-2 vote. It will be a 3-2 vote either way they decide to move forward. And that shows that we need to make sure we're listening to community, but looking at fact-based ideas as we move forward. So it was a positive note, I believe, for the purple line. Thank you.
Mr. Reinhardt. We are going to move to adjourn so that we can take a quick 10-minute break and then reconvene at the top of the hour for our first workshop this morning, supporting immigrants and refugees in Ramsey County. That workshop is led by Commissioner Carter. And then this afternoon at 1:30, we'll have a workshop in regard to the future of the Ramsey County Care Center, led by Commissioner Reinhardt. So we will adjourn now with a 10-minute break, and we'll see you back at the top of the hour to begin that workshop. We are adjourned.